What is up, YouTube? Today we're in the 458 Italia, and well, it is one of my favorite cars. It's one of the coolest cars out there. NA, Pininfarina-designed, and well, it's a De Montezemolo era Ferrari. To me, it is the pinnacle. And well, today we're just taking it for a drive. I'm going to just talk over the car itself, things I like, things I don't like, and why, to me, I think this was just a love letter to Ferrari. So let's get into it. So first of all, things I love about the car, they're pretty simple. One is that audio, revs up to 9,000 RPM and sounds incredible. I appreciate the 488 Pista and 488 respectively are faster cars, but this just sounds incredible. That 4.5 litre naturally aspirated V8, which is a flat plane crank V8, and actually has the most horsepower per cylinder of any NA car. It actually trumped the S2000 to that metric. And well, when you're driving it, it's impeccable. The delivery of power and response is there immediately through your right foot and, well, the steering. The steering on this car is, I believe, fly-by-wire. It's no longer hydraulic, but it does everything so effortlessly. It's such a powerful and controlled car in which, genuinely, I don't think we'll see something like this ever again. The issue is, as the world slowly goes hybrid and electric, things like this get left behind. And well, I was speaking to someone yesterday about the latest 4-litre Porsches that you could now buy. I think it was a Boxster they were on about. And interestingly, they were saying the only way that they can get those cars through the emission regulations is, well, to cheat. And how do they cheat? Well, it's in a really interesting way. What they do is they'll make the car run on 3 cylinders when it's idling so that the emissions are reduced. And I appreciate all that magic might be great, but the issue with something like that is what then happens to the car in the future. Reliability on something like that is going to be fundamentally something that, well, we've not seen before. And that could end up being a far more expensive repair bill than just running that NA V8 running on all cylinders in the example of the 458. So what have I gone over there? Well, first of all, power, NA, sound, and the way it steers is just impeccable. But realistically, the thing that I think will actually mean this car stays timeless for years and years to come is the lack of technology. Now you might say, what do you mean by the lack of technology? Well, some of these cars do have Apple CarPlay, you have cruise control, you have automatic wipers, you have automatic headlights. But the nice thing about this car is it's before they brought in all that nonsense when it comes to ADAS features. So I jump in this car and it's just ready to go. I don't have to press 3 buttons to turn off lane assist. The car is fundamentally doing what I ask of it. Further to that, the technology, the way that it's presented in this car, the only thing that I could liken to it is something like a Bugatti Chiron. And the reason I say that is because they are so clever in the way they display the technology in the car. So as you'll see in something like a 3 Series BMW, they look to put the largest screen in, which at the moment looks like the most technologically advanced. The issue then follows is as those cars get older, the infotainment then becomes a drawback. Older technology, not as good to use, not as user-friendly, and well, it just slows down. The way that the 458 does it, much alike a Chiron, is fundamentally built in a way where it looks like the gauge cluster. So there's no screens that are going to look outdated in the next few years. It's all really, really classy. And I think fundamentally that's where Ferrari of this era were doing so well. The other thing about this car is desirability. Now these cars fundamentally, when this was bought, it was about 155 grand second hand in about 2016. And well, realistically, I mean, the car would probably sit, depending on if it's main dealer or non, between 125 and 145. Now, in realism, if you were able to achieve that higher number through sale or return or through a main dealer, this car would have cost you 10 grand for 10 years, a grand a year, which when depreciation comes into something, that's almost minuscule. The later cars though, as they're under new ownership in Ferrari, they've gone under a very different motto. Whereas these cars were keep production pretty low, make them desirable, move through those cars then onto the special editions and be able to almost value the second-hand market as much as you do the first, worked really well. Currently though, under new management, they've decided to go a different route. And fundamentally, I think the reason they've done that is as new management comes in, it always looks good to boost the numbers. And well, that did look good for a year or so. Sell as many cars as you can, tell people, oh sir, if you need this, you have to buy X. So a good example of this supposedly is to get Pininfarina-designed, you have to order a 296. And that was fine for a time. But what you're seeing now is the secondary market be flooded with these cars because people were expected to buy something they didn't want in the first place. And well, they didn't do that with the 458. The 458 was going for significant overs when it first came out, and realistically, it's not lost a lot of money ever since. So it fundamentally just does everything I can imagine you'd want from a Ferrari and fits in a perfect sweet spot. De Montezemolo era, Pininfarina-designed, naturally aspirated, and they didn't make too many of them. Now don't get me wrong, there are quite a lot of 458s, I'm not calling this a limited edition, but there's a relative supply to the demand, and that's what's kept prices strong, firm, and hopefully will make this a future classic. So what am I saying? Well, this car, to me, is the pinnacle of Ferrari. Now, I appreciate people might be saying a 250 GTO or a LaFerrari, and that's great. But who has that sort of money? You know, that's a, what, 250 GTO, £70 million car. If you ever see one on the open market, they always sell behind closed doors. And then a LaFerrari's at, what, £3.5 million quid. So to me, I see this fundamentally as the baby pinnacle, if that makes sense. It's a term that I never really thought about before I said it. And really, I see this as being like the love letter to Ferrari that potentially a lot more people could own than the very, very rare stuff. And well, it's just incredible. If you ever get the chance to drive one, bite someone's hand off. It's NA, it revs to the moon, or 9,000 RPM. It drives so quickly. 0 to 60, I believe, is around the 3.5 second mark, which you can't really beat in most modern sports cars. It's got the technology that you want from it, and well, it drives incredibly. The cool thing right now is I'm in race, but obviously I'm stuck in traffic doing 36 mile an hour in a 60, and it's quiet as a mouse. Whereas if I'm in race mode and I'm having a bit of fun, the sound comes out. Now that was 47 mile an hour. That's one of the biggest issue with cars like this, is fundamentally you can't exploit them on the UK roads. You have no opportunities to, and especially in Wales, nearly every single road is 20 mile an hour now. So it makes it a rather fun, but sedate drive. And well, this car is the one I would want to do it in. Realistically, say you had the money and you could go out and buy something newer, I'm conscious that maybe a Roma is similar money. I don't think it would give you the same fizz as a car of this era. This is also amazing as well because this has all the tactile buttons. Everything after this went haptic feedback and touch buttons, which I hate. As well as they built in their own form of Siri, where if I said Ferrari in a Ferrari, it'll freak out. It'll want to do something for me. It'll be like, oh yeah, that's me. I'm a Ferrari. Can you put a song on? I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. If I wanted to do that in here, I just press a button. Music's on. Sorted. This car to me is perfection. Just enough technology, but not too much. And then on the other side of it, I think it has just about the right amount of horsepower. It's about 560 horsepower, I believe. That's me pulling the number out of my head. And one of the really good things about that is it's so usable. It's faster than you will ever need, but it's also not 1,000 horsepower on a UKB road. It really uses the power impeccably. And I've got to be honest, I'm incredibly grateful that they didn't put a manual gearbox in this car, because you would not be able to exploit it. The double clutch in this is impeccable. The carbon ceramics, it stops on a dime when warm. And well, it's just a great car to drive. So that's me just having a little bit of a rant about everything I love about a 458 and why I see it as a love letter to Ferrari. And now I'm just gonna drive it. So I'll see you all soon. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed looking at this incredible cabin that is the 458 Italia. And I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.